Hi guys, it's been a while. It's been about a month since I put any content here. It's been a crazy month, pretty intense to be honest. The amount of content we've been getting per day, uh, why not, has gone up substantially. Um, if we go back a few months, we were averaging about 170 videos per day, and that seemed pretty doable. Then we jumped up to about 180 videos per day for I don't know, like a month or two, and that seemed pretty doable. And then just out of nowhere, we jumped to like 210 per day, and this is like it's getting like intense. Like the difference between 180 and 210 is like pushing like the limits of my sanity. And 210 isn't even the tops. Like we've been hitting 230, 250 sometimes, and it's just a level of madness and insanity to that amount of content that we have to go through per day. But I've been doing our best, and September was a pretty intense month. I didn't really sleep that much, a lot of work to do, and I tried to keep up. There were 2 days that didn't quite finish, the 5th and the 9th, I think. Everything else got completed. The 5th and 9th are mostly done. They're like 95% done, but they are never finalized. And but you know, you win some, you lose some. Uh, the beginning of the month last year, in September, the beginning of that month, like, geez, man, like Sunday, I can't remember what day it was, like the third, like Sunday was the most vehicle losses we ever had in a single day. It was like, what was it, like 150, 200, whatever. I can't remember the number. It was so wild. It was so many losses. Oh, it had been more than 150. I think it was like 250. I don't know. But it was so many in one day. And then the following day was the most videos we ever had in a single day. And then the following day after that, so would have been the most videos we had ever seen if it hadn't been for the prior day. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, complete insanity, completely threw me off for the whole week, which is why the 5th never got done because I focused so much on finishing Sunday, Monday, that I never quite did Tuesday. So anyway, so getting back to the news here, I just want to cover some brief things because like a lot of things have happened, and I'm not going to get into the little details. But I kind of want to talk about the overarching things that are going on here. My mouse is on hyper scroll mode, and which is why it keeps zooming in on its own mind. So anyway, um, so in the past few weeks, I'm going to use this maybe I'll use this circle tool, right? Maybe what's a good radius? I don't know, like two, yeah, two's a good radius. Okay, so I'll use I'm gonna and disable tooltips and okay, so oh okay, so I'm gonna clear and I'm gonna use this circle tool just as a highlighter of sorts. Okay, so maybe I'll make it 1 kilometer. Just this, it's just gonna draw some dots. Okay, so over the past few months here, so I'm gonna go back in time. I'll go back in time to like September of last year. So September of last year, Russia began assaulting here, like right here, and here, and they're trying to push towards Novomikhailivka. They're trying to get here to capture the town. Um, and this was the first piece of the puzzle here. So attacking this town. So they had to cross these fields down here, which went very badly for them. They lost a ton of vehicles trying to move up this tree line. They lost a ton of vehicles just right here. Just absolute carnage. Crossing this field here like that. They had all these. This was kind of like the beginning of them using MTLBs with the roofs cut off and the extra boxes installed on top. So it was like these weird MTLBs that were turned into like armored personnel carriers. And then later on we saw them start doing that same sort of thing to their tanks that people started calling turtle tanks and we call tracked garden sheds. But this was kind of like the beginning of it. It was just like the first like huge assault where they attacked right here, and they tried to go. Well, first they went up this tree line, and it was a disaster. And then they tried to go here, and it went badly. But they eventually captured it, and same over here, and blah 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 blah. They have kept assaulting and assaulting and assaulting Nova Mykolaiv, and they lost around like 300 vehicles, give or take. And in the main assault, I mean they were charging up this road here. They're charging across this field, trying to go kind of this way, and also through this field up here. And so yeah, this whole attack was a huge deal. Pretty much simultaneously, they were trying to capture these positions up here. There's a menagerie and a few other positions. These are really important positions that Ukraine had, and Ukraine defended them very well. But they eventually got outflanked when Russia started going around them to the south, and they forced Ukraine to withdraw. And anyway, so this was the beginning of everything. Okay, so they eventually captured it, and they kept on going west. They kept going west, west, west. They eventually got Pereskovivka, and they assaulted Konstantinivka. Okay, so they're attacking this, and they eventually captured kind of this area along this pond reservoir thing, and they started pushing in. So they kind of had this whole foothold in the eastern part, and then they started assaulting kind of the southern part where they captured kind of well they cleared out this, and they started capturing kind of these houses here, and eventually they captured this whole southern part. They started raising flags like over here somewhere. I think the flags are right here. So they started raising flags, and eventually um, Ukraine withdrew. They withdrew from the western part of the town. All right. So pretty much simultaneous to this attack on Konstantinivka, Russia was attacking. Well, first they captured this area north of Vladimirivka, captured this here. Then they kind of moved up and they captured this kind of like horseshoe type tree thing here. And then they started moving up this highway, and they got to this defensive position right here, which I don't know if this is going to load correctly, but this is a trench. Oh, there it is. This is a trench, and they captured this. Um, so they captured this point right here, and then a week later, I believe, or 10 days or something, Ukraine withdrew. So these assaults were happening pretty much at the same time, and I think they're of equal significance. The southern attack, we didn't really get that much news from, direct news. We got some video, but not really that much. There was like rumors of it, but we never saw like a lot of like really good footage. There's some footage, but not that much. So, and all the footage we got was always like weeks and weeks late. It seemed that the Russians didn't want to really talk about it, and the Ukrainians were like kind of suppressing it. But anyways, so this attack up this road, and this attack in Konstantinivka were happening more or less simultaneously. And Russia got to this intersection first. This was the first thing they got to. A few days later, Ukraine withdrew from Konstantinivka, and I think these two events were linked together. I don't know if Ukraine withdrew from Konstantinivka because they lost this area of the road, or vice versa, whether they lost this, whether they withdrew from this area because they were withdrawing from there. So I'm not sure which was more important, but they happened more or less simultaneously. Although this road came first. After that, you started to see. Oh, also simultaneous to this attack in Konstantinivka and this attack in this highway, also at the same time, going on concurrently, was a huge bombardment of Preshestivka. So right here, this town was getting absolutely shellacked by airstrikes. Mostly helicopter strikes, but also FABs from airplanes. So it was mostly helicopters using precision-guided missiles to wipe out a lot of these houses. These houses were used for ATGMs. They were used for anti-tank positions, especially these ones up front, and I believe there's some undulation to this territory. So I think some of these houses in the rear are on higher ground relative to this, even though it is lower grounds, because anyway, the north is a stream, so it is in general going downhill. But I think some of these houses were higher. Anyway, so Russia was going through bombing these houses, destroying them, destroying these firing positions, forcing Ukraine to use fire positions up on this hill on the opposite side of the stream, which didn't have as good line of sight for various reasons. And so yeah, so uh, when when this highway over here, where am I? When this highway fell and Konstantinivka fell, Russia immediately started launching assaults on Vodiana, on this mine, and then pretty in short order on Preshestivka, where they had to first capture all of these fields. They like captured up to here, and then they assaulted the town, and they captured it in like one day, so or maybe 2 days. So they kind of they had to move up first, and then they captured it, and then they kind of kept going. So and then they in capturing this, they also gained control of several crossings across this river stream thing here. In my mind, it's a stream because it's so tiny, but it's actually a river. But but anyway, Russia crossed this in multiple places, and then they eventually pushed on up and kind of took control of this whole area to the west of Vuhledar. And at that point, Vuhledar was kind of surrounded because Russia had taken this mine, they had taken Vodiana, and they had taken this ground to the west, so Vuhledar was in a lot of trouble. So this was all kind of it all seemed pretty planned to me. It seemed pretty obvious to me what was happening, well in advance of it all happening. I've tweeted out a number of times about this town getting hit by airstrikes. I, I really thought Russia would launch an offensive on this town, and they did. Um, Diana was captured, obviously, and the mine behind it was captured, and they kept going. And this is like I'm not. I think this is like a pump station or whatever. I don't even know what that is. But anyway, so long story short, Russia captured. Well, they captured Vuhledar. Ukraine had to withdraw from Vuhledar, and this is kind of the situation we have now. Um, so we have this position in Konstantinivka, which is more or less stable. We have this position in like Vodiana, which appear to be more or less stable. Russia is kind of attacking. They're trying to get around Katerinivka. They're trying to get to here and kind of go like that. So that's kind of their attack path at this point. And they've captured Volodar, and they're trying to move on up. They're trying to move up to like here. So what they want to do is kind of they they more or less okay. So they more or less they want to like uh, push Ukraine to this defensive line that they have here, right? This is kind of a defensive line that they have. So they want to push Ukraine to this defensive line, and this is kind of what they're going at now. Also, they're trying to capture Zolota Niva and move on up like this, kind of basically. I think their goal is to kind of move this way to the northwest. So they kind of they want to drive a wedge between Velika Novosilka and Krachova. So they want to get a wedge between these two towns, whether it's going through here or through here or through here or through here. They don't care. They just want to get this wedge through. They want to have like control kind of going like this in that direction. Okay, like this. Here, I will. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Right, so they kind of want to drive this wedge, right? Um, so this is kind of what's going on in the south at the moment. I'm pretty worried about it, in all honesty. Um, this is what I worry about the most in everything going on in Ukraine. This is what I worry about the most. I think there is. I'm gonna clear all this stuff out. I'm going to just kind of draw like a series of dots. I think this area right here. That well, let me try again. Let me try again. Here. Oh boy. Let's go back to dots. Let's go back to dots. Okay. So I think this area here is of extreme significance. Like this area right here. This defensive line along this road. And the defenses aren't, I don't think, are literally along the road. I'm just kind of using the road as a guide. I think the defenses are probably more like here, like that probably. But anyways, this area is of extreme consequence because Russia cannot be allowed to get behind this area, at least not in the short term. And I'm by short term, I mean 3 months, 6 months. Like they can't be allowed to get there. You have to give yourself the time to build a, a good enough defensive line behind this. This defensive line has to hold for a while. So this line has a few. It's not one line. So there's like one defensive line that kind of goes through these towns, like kind of where Drit, and then there's probably another one that kind of goes like that, kind of like between them, and then there's stuff on these along this highway here, and then there's more stuff even behind it. So it's not just one static line. It's really more this area here, this kind of choke point, and we can kind of measure it. It's about 37 kilometers, give or take, maybe like 40, 50 if you incorporate this curve here. So this area is extremely important because to the west over here, there's a extremely strong defensive line, extremely strong defense here. To the north is a completely unrelated problem that we'll get to in a moment. So that's another problem to the north, but we'll talk about that in a second. So basically, to the west, you don't really have to care. It's a really good defensive line. Okay, and to the north is a different problem we'll get to. But this gap between this extremely strong defensive line and this thing we'll talk about in a minute, this gap between is really, really important. And Russia is kind of making it their focus for the winter, I think. Um, and the southern approach is not the only way Russia is assaulting. This is one way they're attacking this gap. The other way to attack the gap is from the north. So in the north, we have this whole attack here, right? So we have um, this Kurahivka, which is kind of like a castle. All right, it's kind of like a castle. It's on a hill. It has a moat. It has this like river moat around it. And then to the north, it has Hernik right here. And these kind of make an incredibly important defense. Okay, um, so Ukraine is using this rail as a defense at the moment, and we always know that the Russians, when they hit a rail, they just scoot it's like turbo mode. They hit the rail and just go boop and move really far, really fast. It's always very scary. So, but right now, fortunately, um, Russia is trying to move perpendicular to the rail. They're not trying to move along the rail, which is always scary. But anyway, so they have to cross the rail, which is a little bit harder than moving along it. So anyway, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to kind of move this way. They want to kind of get over here, right? They want to get over here, which is again their goal. They want to get behind this defensive line. This defensive line that's over here. They want to get behind it. Um, Okay, sorry. Anyway, so they're trying to get behind it. So this is another avenue of attack, which is, as I said, it's completely unrelated. They really can't even support each other because there's all this river and reservoir, all this stuff in between that this kind of southern approach and this kind of northern approach are kind of like two unrelated beasts that are propping each other up, you know? They both need each other. They both have to be successful. And Russia doesn't care which place they succeed in. They want to succeed in one or the other, or both, I guess, but they want to succeed at least in one of these two places. And at the moment, they seem to be having more success in the north than in the south, even though they've raised their flag in Vuhledar, they've taken Vodiana, they've taken these mines, and they say that they're advancing, they're attacking Zolotaniva, and they're saying all these things, but in reality, they have barely scratched the surface of the Ukrainian defense. And in doing a lot of these things, if you imagine, before the Ukrainian defense was like this, right? So that's like really kind of a long way, and then there's kind of like this, and then like that. Actually, yeah, like this, right? And then it went down kind of like this, right? And then kind of like this way. So there, that was kind of like the Ukrainian line, right? So this is what like 14, 19, um, 20, 30, uh, 45, like 47 kilometers, maybe like 47 kilometers. And then also this kind of northern part too. So I guess we should count that. They also controlled like kind of like that. So yeah, let's one last line. Well, last line of the day. Okay, so what was that, like 40 something, and then this would be like another, so it's like 50, let's just call it 50 kilometers, right? So their line was about 50 kilometers before, right? And now it's it's kind of like 10. Let's see how much smaller it is, right? So like 10, 14, 18, um 22, and then it's like that or something, right? So and like that. So what is this? What does it add up to? So 10, 18, 22, 37, 40, uh, 43, right? So they Ukraine has they have like seven fewer kilometers to cover to defend like the same area more or less. And even that's kind of like overstretching it because a lot of that ground that I just drew, Ukraine isn't actually going to defend it. So it might actually be closer to like 35. But anyways, so they cut out like a big percentage of how much grounds they had to cover. So our friend Igor, he wrote yesterday um, a little bit about what I just talked about. I'm gonna try to find it. Where are you, Igor? Um, so here we go. I'm just gonna cover the part about this, right? So, and I'll show it to you. Here he is. Here's Igor. This is auto translated, so um, forgive the auto translate robot. I might have gotten something wrong, probably always does. Um, but he basically said that the enemy has shortened its front into a secondary area, right? Um, and it's clear that without serious pressure from our troops, um, Ukraine would not have withdrawn the way it did. But uh, yeah, so basically, he's saying that um, Russia put a lot of resources to push Ukraine back. Ukraine did not willingly give up that ground. They would never willingly do that. It makes no sense to them to do that. But losing the ground does not necessarily hurt Ukraine. They're losing something that they wanted, which is bad for them, but in losing it, it actually makes the situation easier for them to defend. So it's kind of a win-win for Ukraine. Holding the ground was a win. Losing the ground is a win. It's a win-win for Ukraine. Um, but here is the important part. Um, Ukraine is exchanging territory for time. In this case, 2.5 years. It took Russia 2.5 years to capture this area. I've said this a lot, and I think a lot of people disagree or they don't understand, but Russia is running out of time. They had a very they had a defined window to win this war, and that window of time it's it's variable to an extent. The variability depends a lot on the price of gas and oil. It depends on the success and failure of sanctions. It determines a lot of things. I'm sorry if I had this text where you couldn't read it. I didn't realize I had it so high up on my screen that you couldn't see it. Uh, but but this time is really vitally important for Russia because their economy can only take so much damage before they start having really significant problems. Um, so he says that on the Russian side, there's a tactical gain, which is completely in the shadow of the strategic loss of time and wasted resources. And this is something that I completely agree with. They they've lost a tremendous amount of resources. Novomykolaivka in alone, they lost around 300 vehicles in the primary assault when they were attacking the town itself, and they lost probably another 300 in the secondary and tertiary assaults when they were attacking north of the town, trying to move west, and also south of it, trying to get towards Konstantinivka. They lost astronomical number of vehicles. And you have to imagine all those vehicles had men in them, so they lost all those men in addition to the vehicles, right? Um, Similarly, they lost, um, they lost tons of stuff attacking Vuhledar, like just an astronomical amount of stuff attacking Vuhledar. They lost less attacking Vodiana. They lost less attacking Konstantinivka. They lost a decent amount attacking Perskovivka, but nowhere near as many as you'd think. They lost a bunch in this kind of Pobieda area, right? And they lost a very large amount in Menagerie. So they probably lost around 40, 50 vehicles here. They probably lost around, I don't know, like 20, 30, 40 vehicles here. They lost around, in this area here, probably around 600, 700, something like that. And around here, maybe like 30. And then here, maybe like 20 or something. And then over here, probably like 20. And around Boulder, I don't even have a count. It's so stupid, so ridiculous. So, but you'll notice that Prechisk, I can't just pronounce that down. I always just kind of make up a pronunciation and kind of say it with um, confidence, even though I know it's wrong. But whatever, I don't care. This town, I only know of them losing two vehicles in this town. Maybe they lost more, but I only know of two, and I think one was a BTR 80, and I think the other was also a BTR, or something like that. So they lost very few vehicles here, right? So that's the worrying part, is that you see a change in their behavior, in Russian behavior. Whereas in Novomykolaivka, what they did is they kind of bombed it a little bit. They bombed it a bit for about 3 months to soften it up, and then they did a huge assault, right? And that assault was a total train wreck, like total disaster. And then after that assault, they said, okay, we're just gonna bomb the town to nothingness. So they kind of deleted the town, and then they assaulted again, and that succeeded, right? Um, Whereas over here, what they did is they said, we're not even going to assault it. We're not even going to pretend to assault it. We're not even going to get close to assaulting it. We're not even going to threaten to assault it. We're just going to bomb the town into nothingness. And then once it's totally gone, then we'll attack. So that's kind of the difference that I see. And now we're seeing this same sort of behavior in Novoyukrenka and in this town that I can't pronounce. I'm not even going to pretend I'm not even going to try. So anyway, they're doing these two towns here are getting just absolutely obliterated recently with airstrikes. Just boom, 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 dozens a day, boom, 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 blowing up all these towns, right? And Russia's not even pretending to attack them yet. I mean, over here they're kind of close-ish, but they're not even attacking. Okay, they're like just kind of like biding their time, obliterating the towns, and when they're gone, they're probably attacking them the same way they did here. The difference being is that Ukraine didn't really make a concerted effort to defend this town, whereas over here, like I said, this is kind of their main defensive line. Ukraine has to defend it, so they will have to defend it. So it won't be such a walk in the park for Russia to capture it. Most likely, it will go back and forth. It will probably be similar to Konstantinivka, where Russia kind of like they did a number of assaults until they got a foothold, and then very slowly worked through it, and then with Ukraine withdrew afterwards. But that whole process took like 3 or 4 months or whatever. So I can see that happening here. And like I said, this area really needs to hold for probably 6 months, at least 3 months, like 3 to 6 months um, to give Ukraine time to build the defenses they need behind it. So if it takes Russia like 3 or 4 months to capture these towns, then that's kind of Ukraine doing their job. Because you have to remember, this is only one defensive line. There's like at least one more, if not two or three more, behind it before you get to this red zone back here. Um, so Russia is learning. They are obviously adapting their tactics, their strategies, etc. But it's all very worrying. Um, this kind of northern part is also kind of terrifying. We see that Russia is attacking Maximilianivka from the north primarily, also a little bit from the east, but primarily from the north. They're trying to they captured this. I think it was a penitentiary, like a prisoner colony, whatever you want to call it, and also this little town here. So they captured those. They're trying to move south to kind of flank this town. Ukraine is seemingly defending it decently at the moment, but I don't think it's going to hold very long. Um, they're also trying to um, push on west to kind of take all of the ground to the east of the river here. Similarly, um, they've captured Jelana Persha, and they will be going south from there. Well, not probably not south, but they're moving from the east to again to capture everything up to the river in order to increase the pressure on Hrinik and then Krahivka, and their whole goal is to just squeeze Ukraine out of these positions and push them on back and get to this kind of like this red zone back here that I'm really scared of. So that's all that's kind of going on down here in the south. It's kind of scary in some ways. I'm honestly not very worried about what's going on near Pokrovsk. I'm not. I don't think it's that much of a threat. Um, to Ukraine, it means a lot, and to Russia, it means a lot, because you get towards the border of Donetsk, like the Donetsk Dnipropetrovsk border, where where the oblast ends, and obviously Russia wants to get to that border. They want to capture all of Donetsk Oblast. So they're getting kind of getting close to it. I think the border's like here or something. I don't actually know where it is, but it's over there somewhere. And anyway, so in that sense, it's getting meaningful. Capturing puck ropes gets you really close to the border. But I think on the sense of the war, the overall like strategic, operational, whatever you want to call it, level, I don't think it really matters. And I think this kind of southern part is way more important. It's a much bigger threat because getting behind this defensive line, this southern defensive line, like if Russia gets to like Komar, like here or something, um, it's really bad. Like it's really remarkably bad. This southern defensive line is the anchor that's kind of holding um, the Ukrainian strategy kind of at the moment. And having this be threatened is just a terrible, terrible thing. Um, so these defensive lines, like the stronger your defensive lines are, the fewer men you need to defend them. Um, So, if you have a bunch of like really strong defenses here, like strings of defenses, it's not just one layer, it's like layer after layer after layer after layer of defenses going back and back for kilometers, like multiple kilometers, like tens of kilometers of just layers of defenses, right? Um, you can defend that with far fewer people than, like over here, where you don't really have that, and you're having to use your infantry and your tanks and artillery and mortars and drones as your defense. And that just takes so much more resources than having these kind of static positions. And these static positions, because like, Ukraine has their defensive line, Russia has their defensive line. Neither side has much interest in doing much, so it just kind of like stays still. And then as a result, both sides are, pulling forces out and sending them other places. So this whole Zaporizhia area um, has very few men in it relative to like over here, where it's going to be like much more dense. So so having this southern defense, under so much pressure, having people get behind it and attack it from the rear, it means that you're going to need way more forces to defend the south, and Ukraine just doesn't have those forces, and that's when you really start getting into a potential disaster where Ukraine is going to have to lose ground. Basically, they won't have the forces to defend a front of this length. They'll have to pull back, and then you really giving up a lot of territory, and then that turns into a geopolitical disaster. It really gives a lot more powerful to a lot more power to the Russians, etc. So you don't want to see that. Um, yeah, this if we go on north. Um, I don't have too much to say about Tourette's. I think I'm just gonna say we'll probably do a stream on Friday, and I think we'll just talk about the North on Friday. I think I'll just talk about this kind of South for today. So this is the video. I'm just gonna end it here. So I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.